All right, I think everyone's here now. And here's our first speaker. My name is Derek Felder. I'm the president of Unite Lehigh. Unite Lehigh is the group that's kind of looking in towards the feasibility study regarding the potential incorporation of Lehigh. Since we had our town hall and a gathering of the community tonight, we're going to give the opportunity for one of our members of the public to speak on one of the other issues that's coming forward to for him to speak on. Unite Lehigh does not necessarily endorse this topic. We are simply giving the opportunity and venue for him to speak on the topic. So with that, I introduce Mr. Matt Caldwell.
Oh. All right. Well, Derek told me to give us about 10 minutes for me to talk to you briefly about this topic and then give you a chance for some questions. But tonight is about Unite Lehigh's focus, so we won't go for a very long time of questions. If we got a whole bunch of them, I would just remind everybody that there is a town hall about the single member district question that the Lee County Legislative Delegation is bringing to Lehigh on Wednesday. So very quickly, what is single member districts and why am I here talking to you? And what does that have to do with you as voters? So there are several different ways that you can structure your county government in Florida. You can have your legislative branch set up with various forms of election. The one that we have here in Lee County currently and have had since the early 1950s is at-large elections. We have 5 districts. All 5 commissioners are elected by all the voters in the entire county. You do have to live in the district you run in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the entire county votes on an election. An alternative is single-member districts. You're familiar with single-member districts because that's the way that you elect people to the state house, the state senate, the Congress, and it's also the way that Lee County voters opted to change the elections for your Lee County School Board back in 2014. Before 2014, Lee County School Board was elected 5 at large. We, the voters, approved by almost a 2/3 vote, switching to a 5 single member and 2 at large system for the school board. That similar 5-2 was proposed last year prior to the legislative session by members of the delegation. They ultimately shelved that in an effort to have an ongoing conversation with local leaders about how to best address this question. But it continues to come up from constituents. I know I've heard about it during 8 years that I represented this community in the state house from 2010 to 2018. And it continues to come up as I go countywide in my current role. People are concerned about ensuring that the local community gets as much attention as the countywide issue. And so let's talk about how that stacks up. Lee County is undeniably unusual in our size category. Every single county that's larger than us, 7 larger than us, all have single member districts. Almost every single county below us in the large county group have single member districts. Every county on the west coast of Florida, from Pinellas County to Collier County, has single member except Lee and Charlotte. So it's not an unfamiliar thing, it's not an untested thing. As I pointed out, it is the change that voters of Lee County made several years ago for the school board. Other items to think about as you consider whether coming to the town hall, and again, this is a town hall, the delegation, your legislative delegation is looking for input. They're looking for voters in this community to come, show up, and give your opinion. Are you for it? Are you against it? Are you looking to find out more information? What is your position on this question? It has come up in the past. Lee County is one of many counties in Florida, most large counties. We have our own charter, so we do have the ability as a county to change the structure of our government if we choose to. Single member districts has been repeatedly a topic of conversation at each one of the charter review meetings. It's come close within a vote at least twice, getting out of that charter review process and going to the ballot. So it has shown repeatedly that there is at least a significant level of interest. And I'll remind you in both those cases, the way the charter review is structured, you have to have 10 out of 15 votes in order to advance the issue. So it's not a majority. You have to have almost 2/3 to get out. So we've shown repeatedly in previous cycles, there's a majority that's interested in seeing this issue brought before the voters. Just a couple other things real quickly to think about. As a single member district, like I mentioned earlier, you would have the ability to have a local person represent your district. Now, that doesn't mean that you want to ignore countywide issues. There are undeniably enormous issues in a county headed towards 1 million people. How you're going to structure the interstate, how you're going to build major arterials to feed that interstate, how you're going to manage an airport that is one of the largest and fastest growing in the country. These are countywide issues that need a countywide perspective. It's why, frankly, in the 2 decades nearly that I've worked on this issue, I continually come back to the conclusion that a 5-2 is the best of both worlds. You end up with 2 people that run countywide, they understand the countywide, they're responsible for getting to every single corner of the county and representing those issues that are important to the entire county. But you would also have a board composed of 5 people that represent each of the 5 corners of the county. Each one of those single member districts today, by the way, would be about the same size as running countywide in the county in 1980. 1980, we had 200,000 people in this county. So if we go to this system, you're getting close to 200,000 people in each single member district under this scenario. It's an enormous, enormous opportunity from my perspective. So again, wanted to come and share, make sure that you're aware this is out there. There have been other conversations as well about restructuring potentially the executive branch of your county government. Again, voters did that with our school board this last cycle. We agreed that we wanted to have the superintendent be elected again with the first county in Florida's history to go back to an elected superintendent. That ballot or that office is on your ballot this year. Have that race in front of you. And from my perspective, I was supportive of an elected superintendent because while I think it is critical that you have professionals who are employed to operate the district, your county managers, your city managers, your district managers, the way the superintendent currently functions, you need to have somebody that's politically accountable to the folks that are paying taxes, the folks whose kids are actually going to the schools and sitting in those classrooms. So again, a system where you have the best of both worlds, that's what has also been proposed at a previous delegation meeting, going to an elected executive system for our executive branch in the county government, where you would have countywide elected officials operate that branch just the same way, by the way, as you do with your sheriff, tax collector, your property appraiser, supervisor of elections, and your clerk of court, all of whom are elected executive officers that each one of you vote on and have voted on in this county since the day it became a county over 100 and nearly 50 years ago. So moving to that system is another thing that's up there for discussion. But the primary focus is on single member districts, and that question and these additional issues later on as you consider the structure of your county government. So trying to keep that short and sweet, I could make a 2-hour presentation and give you all the history going back 100 years about the difference between at-large and single member, the advantages, disadvantages, how that's evolved over time. But let me throw it out to some questions so that you can get into Derek's presentation about incorporation. Yes, sir.
Question about the charter. Would it require a rewriting or restructuring of the charter to go to single member?
Yeah, so the question was, you have to change the charter. The answer is yes, you have to change the charter. You have multiple ways that you can do that. You can sign a petition. That is a challenge with over 400,000 voters. Realistically, you're really never going to see a petition drive to change a charter in counties of our size. You have the charter review commission process. I think ultimately that's proven to be ineffective. It's met 5 times in almost 30 years and has proposed, I think he's proposed 3 different things. I served in 06 to 08. We changed it from being every 4 years to every 8 years. You approved that. That's pretty much it in almost 30 years of being. That's actually been proposed and brought out of the commission. The other option is your county commission can put it on the ballot. The county commission has not considered this question directly. They did take up a question of opposing the delegation. It was a 3-2 vote both times that they voted on whether or not to oppose the proposals that the delegation was looking at. But then above the charter, your legislative delegation is your representation in state government. So the county is created by the state government. The structure of its charter can be changed by the state government. And in this case, because we already have a charter, they would be proposing a charter amendment. So it would be a fourth way that you get a charter amendment on the ballot. What's being discussed wouldn't be able to even be considered until after the 24 elections. This would be an issue for the 2026 election. For it to be put on the 24th at this point, because there's no legislative session that would occur, the only way it could happen is if the county commission decided to. So the county commission could theoretically do it, but again, they took up a form of this question in their opposition to the delegation on the vote. I don't see that changing. But I certainly would encourage you to contact the commissioners and share your concerns.
Hey, Matt, Steve. Hey, Jones, how are you? Good to see you again.
Yep.
Is the author of Lancet, the Lancet structure, who created that, got approved in legislation? Can you talk just briefly about how the county commission can approve the powers and incorporate this the process, this organization?
Sure. I mean, that's going to delve into much deeper questions than I came to talk about, but it is pertinent to your next conversation. And what you have in Lancet is a special district. A special district is exactly that. It has special powers that are given to it based on the specific charter that the legislature draws up. It previously was a district of East County Water Control, organized under Chapter 298, which is basically just flood control purposes. Now it's organized under Chapter 189, or 187. So it can be given any powers, and the powers that it was given for sure when we passed it were the water control powers, were the parks powers, were the bridge powers. In addition, there are several other powers that are in the act, and it calls for a negotiation with the commission. The commission decides to hand over, to relinquish their oversight on these powers. Lancet has the authority to operate them. The one that they have agreed to is signs. So that is how you see the signs at the entrance to the community where it be able to be built by Lancet. Also saving the cookie, replacing the cookie, as I always call it. I call it the cookie because as a kid driving past it looked like a giant pound cookie, like a chocolate cookie. But it came out of that negotiation. That's the power they've agreed to. They also have the power, subject to agreement with the commission, for streetlights, sidewalks, water, sewer, and zoning, basically serving as the zoning board prior to having an issue go to the commission for ratification.
So how many does it take for us of the city if the county relinquished it by voting?
Oh, well, your question. So there is a provision in the statutes. If you have a special district with a certain number of powers, I believe it is 6 powers. Now you're asking that off the top of my head. If we get 6 powers, then by petition, you would still have to get a petition. We've got about, let's see, we're probably closer to 160,000 residents. So your voter roll is going to be based off of 24 turnout. So it's going to be close, I bet, 80,000 registered voters at the close of roll for the general election. So you have to get a significant portion of that to also sign a petition. But that is the method you can go rather than the traditional method, which getting a city requires you to do a financial feasibility study, demonstrate that it's got all of that meets all the statutory metrics, and then get the referendum put on the ballot by the legislature to create a city that way.
None of the commissioners vote to give us any of those powers. In fact, they were repeatedly asked, and will not give it. And is Mike Greenwald here, by the way? Is he here? Or did he get lost?
So I can't speak to where they're at. I haven't asked any of the 5 of them recently where they're out of those powers, but other questions to Single Member District before Derek takes over for this stuff.
Basic question, Single Member District, right? But now, really helpful because Matt is very, it's one of our advocates for that. But Lehigh, we want to go through that process. Thank you.
Good to have that.
Hey,
Question I have, make sure that I understand. You're saying with single member districts, the individuals would still have to live in the area they represent. However, the vote would be countywide.
No, the proposal that came forward last year and didn't move to the legislature was to adopt the 5-2 Sangamon School Board. So the 5 single member, they live in their districts, they're only voted on by their districts, and then 2 countywide are voted by the entire county.
Okay, the second.
Yeah.
Because my concern is if you're voted in countywide, your constituents are going to come from the highest voting block. And their issues are going to bring to the top because they're your highest constituent. But anyway, that was my concern about it, but if it's just voted within, and with the growth that we see in Lehigh especially now, and the projected growth, I am concerned that the people that have lived here for 20, 50 years, that have one idea about what it's going to be like once all of these apartments, 1,000 homes and all of that come in. The issues that, you know, we have dealt with for years will go,
Sure. Well, and so 2 things I would want to make sure to hammer home. First is the practical reality of our current system. Now, not every commission race gets contested. We have plenty of them that go uncontested and they get re-elected without opposition. If you pull out though all the races that have actually been erased, 2 more people ran for the seat, either in the primary or the general or vote since 1980. Almost half of the time, the district loses. The district has chosen the person that loses as a countywide state. So this isn't a theoretical question. When you look at the actual results for the last 3 years in Lee County, almost half the time, the at-large system keeps the local district from getting the commissioner that they picked within the district. That's really the ultimate failure of only having at-large elections. And the other point I would make is to your last part. As you see this community grow and we head towards 1 million people, we're going to probably build out somewhere around 1.2 million, 1.3 million, which again is crazy for a kid that grew up here when we were only 200,000 people, and out here in Lehigh, literally 10,000 people were pushing it. When my granddad ran the bank across the street, this was not a big place. It was still pretty quiet. And now it is a big city in and of itself, regardless of its corporation status. And I think deserves that level of local representation. And you think about the dynamic in all of the other legislative bodies participating. It's why state house seats are a different size than the state senate. State house member is expected to really understand the issues focusing on their local community. And the Senate seats are supposed to represent a much larger constituency. It's supposed to represent the kind of issues that are bigger than any one neighborhood. But my conclusion is it doesn't matter how well-meaning, how well-intentioned, how excellent our candidates are for county commission. It's going to become impossible across 1 million people to juggle understanding both the needs of the airport and the needs for your park in your neighborhood down the street. You need a diversity of opinion from that point. So I'll just wrap it up with this. We got a question here. All right, well, this is a great one. Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I just want to clarify for everybody here. I'm Cecil from You said several times the delegation supported effort to do this. Can you be clarified? Because I think the whole delegation supports this. This came up this past session and it fell in Tallahassee and leadership took it away as far as they were doing. Can you give us a little bit of clarification with only a few members of the delegation?
Yeah, so the town hall is specifically being hosted by 4 members of our 8-member delegation. Senator Martin, Representative Esposito, Lombardo, and Montana. Representative Persons Mullica has been the most consistently outspoken that she doesn't believe this is the right way to go forward. She said that publicly in multiple meetings. The balance of your delegation, Spencer Roach has announced he's not running for re-election, so that's your other. Well, he hasn't taken a public position on it. But we don't want to debate that one, because I'll win that one. The 2 other senators have declined also to get involved in the question.
So, for the guy's question about Lampton that brought up, that was a bill we created back years ago. So Lehigh couldn't incorporate it. But at the end of the day, if that was dissolved, the Board of County Commission companies are voting the agencies that there would be the state legislators. I think the current legislative policy is not creating cities out from those people. feasible, correct? So it would not be the Board of County Commission, it'd be the state, correct?
Ultimately, the choice to become a city, if they follow the petition method through the powers, would be up to the people of Lehigh to decide, pending the commission agreeing to the additional power. If they went the traditional route, they would need a feasibility study, and I would agree with Cecil's characterization. There is a very, very high threshold for creating a new city through the traditional method. You need to really demonstrate the financial feasibility. They do not want to create new cities that are going to potentially become an additional tax burden on the citizens. And in fact, when you consider statewide, we've got, I think it's 415 cities at this point. That it's really a much bigger issue, not specifically about Lehigh at that point. It's about that statewide perspective. So all that to say, if you do move forward with the traditional method, you need to really make sure that you've got all your I's dotted and T's crossed, because it is a very high.
And when you're in the House, you never, you were trying to get finger just because the city didn't represent, correct? They went to the Charter Review Commission.
Well, Commissioner, I appreciate it. You're trying to go with me on you and I having a discussion here in front of the audience. Suffice to say, I think I think the Charter Review Commission should have put this on the ballot. And the 2 times it got 9 votes instead of 10, put it on the ballot. I believe that there was pressure placed on the members of the Charter Review Commission to inappropriately vote no, and that this question has been coming to you at least twice in the past. That's my conclusion. I can't prove that, but having been asked the question, it is the answer. So I'll lastly say this. If you wonder whether or not I'm passionate about this, take the evidence that I'm standing here in front of you. I'm not a member of the legislature anymore. I don't have a vote on this directly. It would be very easy for me as a countywide elected official that's not responsible for any of these questions to simply sit at home and let y'all deal with it. But I feel very strongly about this issue, and at some particular political peril, as evidenced this evening, I have picked a fight to some extent. But I will say that I don't believe I have picked a fight. I have held this position for the last 20 years since I first served on the Charter Review back in 2006. I concluded that this was the correct way to move forward. I think it's the best way for our community to grow as a local government with a community headed towards 1 million people. And I'm not going to shy away from saying what I truly earnestly believe is the right direction for the future of our county because of the peril. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. With that, we're going to dive into our presentation regarding feasibility of incorporation. United Lehigh is a nonprofit. I'm Derek Felder, by the way, president of United Lehigh. United Lehigh is a nonprofit. It was formed in July of 2022. Its formal purpose is to unite the citizens to become an incorporated city and bring about a higher quality of living. United Lehigh, the group, meets monthly on the second Monday at 7 p.m. behind the sheriff station off Plaza Drive. Currently, we're working towards fundraising to have a feasibility study done to see if Lehigh Acres is possible to incorporate to become a city, town, or village. So I say that because similar to what was said earlier, the issue is whether or not we have the tax base to become incorporated. United Lehigh is not for incorporation if it is not possible. Our goal is for a feasibility study. That's what we want. We want to, this argument has been going around for many years, decades, way long before I moved here. I'm not bringing this issue forward. I'm just the one currently working towards a goal of a feasibility study. If it's not possible, then at least we have an end of the argument and know it's not possible. But right now, it's just all hearsay and rumors whether we have the tax base or not. So with that, I got involved with United Lehigh about 2 years ago. Since I am not the one that organized and started United Lehigh, there are others in the community that had to step back from the leadership role of United Lehigh, and I was able to step into that leadership role to help move this topic forward. My wife and I moved to Lehigh Acres about 3 years ago in April of 2021. And since moving here, many would say that I have become one of the most active members of the community with all the meetings and groups that I attend and involved with. This is a short list of some of those groups that I am either a member of or attend regularly. The Lehigh Acres Community Council, Lehigh Acres Architectural Planning Zoning Board, Street Lighting Committee, Eastleigh Wildlife Stewardship Group, the Lee County Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, Lee County Metropolitan Planning Organization, also HOA member at Town Lakes HOA, and a member of the Alva Inc. group, which is north of us also. So what is Lee County currently doing for us? Road repaving projects, $5 million per every year put towards repaving roads. Williams Park was just expanded for $17 million. Lee Train is installing a park and ride for $6 million. Able Canal Pathway will be begun construction soon for $11 million. The illegal extension to connect at State Road 80 and Sunshine Boulevard is coming through for, I forget the number, over $100 million. There's work towards extending Sunshine Boulevard north to State Road 80. It's a roundabout coming at Gunnery and Buckingham, and other intersection improvements throughout the Lehigh Acres area, including something coming at Lee Boulevard and Joan Avenue. School district. School district has 8 potential schools coming to the East Zone over the next 10 years. On the slide here, you can see their 10-year capital plan that they have currently. Oops, sorry. 3 schools coming to Sunshine and State Road 82. There's a school on the north side out by Savannah Lakes. There's the Innovation School, K-8, going on Tree Line. There's another elementary, no location yet, and another high school and middle school coming to potentially Joel and Tucker. What is Lamstead doing? Lamstead is the Lehigh Acres Municipal Services Improvement District. They've recently completed phase 2 of the Crest project on Wheeler Road. Frank Mann Preserve is in design phase. Robust property has been purchased and is a water project, quality project for Bedman Creek area. The Bottomless Lake was recently purchased along Joel Boulevard, and they're working towards clearing that for exotics to become a future park. Also talked of purchasing the building next to that to become a Lehigh museum potentially. Lamps is also working on clearing the exotics from Frank Mann Preserve, and that is in the design phase currently to become a water quality and storage facility and park for the public to use also. The fire department, the new station at 107 along Leonard Boulevard across from New Life Church is recently nearly completed, I believe. There's a future training center and tower with potential next fire station located next to the Williams Park expansion at the end of Village Lakes Boulevard. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but FGUA operates currently 2 water treatment plants. One is a operating water treatment plant. The second one is just a booster station and water storage facility currently. The second one is under design to be a reverse osmosis treatment plant where they pull water deep from deep wells and then inject the waste from that back into there. They're also working on a interconnect with Gateway to add an additional 0.5 million gallons per day. And they also operate a wastewater treatment plant that is also currently in design to be expanded by 1 million gallons per day. This slideshow will also be available on YouTube and like that if anyone wants to go back and look at these numbers at a later date. Some current developments that are going on in Lee County. So in this picture only, there's 7,905 units of housing developments being proposed. That's not including all the other pre-plotted Lehigh vacant lots that are also being developed. There's 1.8 million square feet of commercial that is coming in development to Lehigh Acres. 435,000 square feet of industrial, and I know we all love it, 533,000 square feet of storage space. So why do I say all that? Let's talk a little bit about incorporation and what that can mean. If incorporated, Lehigh Acres as a city, town, or village would have a seat at the table for the Lee County Metropolitan Planning Organization. The Lee MPO is responsible for future transportation project priorities. With our current or future population, it is likely that Lehigh Acres would have 4 to 5 seats on this board, similar to Fort Myers or Cape Coral. Currently, we are only represented by our, I'll say 5 at-large commissioners. If incorporated, the county would still maintain control of all the arterial roads. Lehigh Acres would assume control of all the other roads. So this would need to be worked into the feasibility study is how Lehigh Acres would pay for all of those roads. Outside of the ones in red and blue, the blue is the state roads. Red would maintain their county status likely, as they are the main arterial corridor roads. Lehigh Acres sidewalks. This shows the potential ultimate build-out of all the sidewalks for Lehigh Acres using arterial and collector roads. Green is existing, currently built sidewalks. Red is currently on the Lee County Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee list, and all others are future potential projects along those main corridor roads. Recently, I was appointed to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee by Commissioner Kevin Rowan. Since beginning advocating for Lehigh Acres sidewalks, I've already been able to get 3 projects added to the county list. The problem is that they may not get done for 20 years or more under the current allocation process by the county. This is the current county list. It's 144, currently 142 projects long. Red is the central zone. The county is broken into 4 different zones. There are 98 projects in the central zone. 44 of those are for Lehigh Acres. That's 45% of the central zone projects are for Lehigh Acres, and 31% of the overall projects on this list are for Lehigh Acres. These numbers will only increase as I continue to bring more projects forward for Lehigh Acres to the advisory committee. If incorporated, the goal would be that the city, town, or village of Lehigh Acres would begin funding these projects, hopefully be able to take over the sidewalk projects and complete them at a higher rate than the county is currently for us. Again, this would all need to be factored into a feasibility study that is needed. Lehigh zoning. This is a picture of what many of us know Lehigh Acres to be. Everyone says we want to stay rural. While this may be the current situation in much of Lehigh Acres, this is not the future. Future, as we can already see, is happening around us. Every lot will eventually be cleared, almost all the trees, and there will be a house built on every lot. Wildlife will be pushed out. Every lot will have a home built on it. This leads us into the current Lehigh Acres zoning and future land use. This is the future land use map for Lehigh Acres under the current county administration. The central urban main corridors along Lee Boulevard, Joel Boulevard, Leland are all central urban. They allow for 5 to 10 units per acre, up to 15 units per acre. All of the rest of Lehigh Acres, majority of Lehigh Acres, is zoned urban, 0.5 to 6 units per acre, up to a maximum of 10 units per acre. After hearing these numbers, I hope many of you realize that the future of Lehigh Acres under the current county administration is not a rural community. It is potentially a city, town, or village, and maybe we could try to change this zoning or preserve more of the land for pocket parks and things of that nature if we were to have our own ability as a city, town, or village. With our zoning being urban, everyone believes that sewer and water will be expanded everywhere in Lehigh Acres. If we were to become incorporated, that is unlikely. The blue highlighted areas are the existing water main lines. Future development will likely push expansion of these lines along commercial corridors or where large residential developments are being planned and constructed. Likely areas that will get future sewer and water expanded are along Gunnery, State Road 82, potentially Sunshine Boulevard, and 12th Street. Bell Boulevard, we also recently had a water main added, but not sewer. Also, the potential school at Joel and Tuckahoe could advance sewer and water up to that site along Bell Boulevard also. Areas that are part of the original 1960s development are being looked at for converting from their existing septic tanks to potentially conversion to sewer. These 4 areas located along Lee Boulevard, Leland Boulevard, and Joe Boulevard. This conversion is likely to happen currently under the current county administration, having nothing to do with the incorporation of Lehigh Acres into a city, town, or village. Here's a list of the top 10 code violations in Lehigh Acres. Code enforcement does actively patrol in Lehigh, but only between the hours of 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. Many of Lehigh Acres issues occur outside of these times. I will say the county is looking into additional ways or additional fines to discourage the repeat offenders. I'm sure you can all think of situations in your own life where the lack of code enforcement has affected you in some way. A plus to proper code enforcement is to ensure our health, safety, and house property values. In the past 20 years, the Lehigh Acres population has essentially quadrupled from 30,000 to over 130,000. Over the next 20 to 25 years, it is estimated that our population could grow by another 100,000 people. The growth story revolves around Lehigh Acres and Cape Coral. Around 204,000 of the forecasted 355,000 new residents will live in these 2 areas by 2050. With incorporation, if the feasibility study were to come back and incorporation were to be looked at and pursued and begin writing a city charter, there's a few different options for how a city, town, or village structure could be accomplished. The first one I'm going to talk about is if Lamson were to remain independent. This would allow Lamson to keep their existing tax base and also keep their existing board. With this option, through the new city would have to find its own city buildings and staff. With the second option, with Lamson as a dependent district, Lamson would again still keep their own separate tax base, but in this case, the new city could potentially use the Lamson buildings and staff for the city operations. With the option, though, the potential city, town, or village board would be the same board that oversees Lamson. This is similar to how the county commissioners are also the same board that oversee the Port Authority. Third option is Lamson would be dissolved and become the potential public works department of the new city, town, or village. In this scenario, the Lamson tax line would be rolled into a new city, town, or village tax line. If Lamson were to be dissolved, this leads us into the talk of potential borders. There are multiple different options to use for potential borders when looking at feasibility study and incorporation of Lehigh Acres into a city, town, or village. There are 3 established borders currently. The current county established border, the Lehigh Acres Fire Department border, and the Lamson District border. We could use any one of these three when discussing and for a feasibility study or writing a city charter. Another option is to essentially take all three of these maps and overlay them on top of each other, and that could become a potential border. By doing that, this would allow easier roll-in for the Lamson would keep their area. It would involve using an area of Hendry County, as they currently have area in Hendry County that is within Lamson's border. So the future potential city could involve multiple counties. There has been talk within the state legislature regarding fire consolidations. So in my conversations with the fire department, the chief has stated, they don't necessarily want to be part of the city initially, but if the state legislature were to bring forward more talks of fire consolidations, then by using the fire department district border, it would easily allow them to be rolled into a potential city at that point in time. By doing this and using all three maps on top of each other, it would make us larger than Cape Coral and have multiple counties within one city. This map is wanted to bring forward. This is the existing county map shown here in brown. I just want to point out a few of the areas. On the bottom, circled in blue, have addresses, postal addresses of Fort Myers. They are still designated by the county as part of Lehigh Acres. Similarly, the northeast corner of Lehigh Acres has postal addresses of Elba. This can be confusing for someone that would be purchasing a home in this area. They may not realize that they're actually within the county designated area of Lehigh Acres. On the flip side, the area near Colonial and State Road 82 is part of the city of Fort Myers, but has addresses of Lehigh Acres. Many of the older homes within Lehigh Acres are located within this area along Leland and Joel. A possible special revitalization lower taxing district could potentially be created, allowing this area a tax break and incentivizing them to be able to make upgrades to their homes. Also, many of the older population may live within this original 1960 development area, and this would provide them a tax break as to not displace these members of the community. This is just a potential map of council districts. If this is the border for the city, town, or village that would be used. Here's a potential Lehigh Acres County tax bill. The original total tax bill currently is $3,500. If Lehigh Acres were to become a city, town, or village, there are two main lines that will be removed: the unincorporated MSTU and the Lehigh Acres Light MSTU. The Lehigh Acres Light would be rolled into the future city tax. There are other lines on here, like for instance, the Lamson line under the I gave the three scenarios earlier. If they would be dissolved, that line would also be removed. But in the other two options, that line would stay. There's a few other things on here that could be removed. Other cities around the county have kept them. For instance, the solid waste assessment, that could be removed and it could be done by the city. Many of them are going back to the county, I understand, so I left that on here. So if incorporated, $354 of the $3,500 would be moved from the tax bill. The question is, how much is going to be added back in to pay for the city? That is where we need the feasibility study to tell us that. Feasibility study costs around $55,000. It's going to tell us what our revenues are. These revenues come from multiple avenues: property taxes, state funds, gas tax, and state and federal grants. The study needs to tell us, what is the cost to run the city? And in the end, what will the proposed city tax to the homeowners be? If we can get the funding together and begin the feasibility study, I think at the latest, you need to begin it by January 2025. We need to write the city charter kind of coinciding with the feasibility study when we need to make decisions. To create the feasibility study, we need to make the decisions on how, what's the potential border going to be? What's the city structure going to be? We need to know those things, make those hypothetical choices in order to have the feasibility study done. And at that time, we can also co-write the city charter at the same time. If the feasibility study were to come back positive, and we wanted to move forward with this, we could potentially make it for the November 2026 election. To do that, a feasibility study, the charter, a petition of the voters would all need to be submitted to the state legislature no later than September 2025. Those decisions that I spoke of the structures, the borders, all of that those decisions are not easy decisions. I will not be necessarily making those decisions. There'll be conversations that we have with county commissioners, Matt Caldwell, state legislatures, the other organizations that it affects, the fire department, the LAMCID, and we'll also be forming some kind of committee within the community so we can get a group of the committee of the public to be able to have their input on what they think is a possible avenue to go also. With that, I invite all of you to attend community council meetings. Community council meets monthly on the first Monday of every month at 7 p.m. Also behind the sheriff station, same as where United Lehigh meets. This is some of their information to get a hold of them. The QR code will link you to their Facebook page. I have also created a Meetup app. And if you go to this website or follow this QR code, it will bring you to the meetup group that I have created for Lehigh County Civic Engagement Group, where I'm trying to put every public meeting, whether it be Lehigh Fire Department, LAMCID, county meetings, the Lehigh County Metropolitan Group meetings, any public meeting that may affect Lehigh or the surrounding communities, I'm trying to include in this app so that to help inform the community of these public meetings to get more community engagement at meetings. Like I said, I've been going to meetings for the past 2 years, and there's not a lot of public involvement at all. Lots of people have opinions, but not many people come to meetings. So with that, we're going to open it up to questions. If anyone has filled out question and comment cards, somebody can come around and take them. We'll pass it on the mics to people, and we can begin the Q&A session. I may not have answers to everything. We'll do our best. So let's see how this goes. Oh, you want to do so?
Hands up, got a question? Got one at that. We give it a try.
We get a plan for both stuff. I need to find, be here, be high for,
These are my places.
and, it's huge. And, time I think here now, it's been driven just for message to town abroad. People have, it's tough. Great. But well, one of the things that I mean, it grow like so quick and fast. Oh, you think about city tax. See that yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand you guys grew up here and it's lovely. When I came here, I was like really, but now it's like wow, I can take a walk and see like stuff, and it's a privilege. It's a privilege. I come from California, so it's like peace here. Like nice. So I understand you guys how you guys feel about it, but in the time I've been here, so now I've only been here like what 5-6 years on. And I think it's gonna probably continue to grow, and it's I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting. My question is this: what do you think? You think, from your opinion, you think it's capable of making the city? You guys like, from your opinion, you think it has the capability of being a city?
The biggest argument that everyone has right now is, I don't want my taxes to go up. Which I agree with. I don't want my taxes to go up either. I'm willing to let them go up a little bit if it means I get a higher quality of service provided. But I don't want them to go up substantially. That is why we need a feasibility study to truly tell us what a potential city tax would be.
It's a pleasure here, man. It's lovely here. It's town, and I believe it's go for city. Well, God bless everybody.
Introduce that question.
Yeah.
That was great.
You have a question on comments here, and he's gonna read that and try to.
I'm not entirely sure what the question is. Speeding, reckless driving. I guess the answer to that would be, if we were to be incorporated into a city, town, or village, we would still use the sheriff for we would not have our own police department. That would likely add too much cost. Maybe someday, but not anytime soon. We could potentially contract with the sheriff for additional sheriff officers for our area. It's unknown at this time for how much that cost will be, to be determined. How much of the half-cent tax sales did we get for students? Not sure what the question is. I don't know.
Gentleman is over here, Eric. Gentleman is here. Mike. Can you hear me?
No. Push the hold like 3 seconds on the button.
Should be a green light.
There you go.
Yeah. Keep it close to your mouth. The name is Richard Burgett. And live in, we moved here about a year and a half ago. My question of the speeding was that we live in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and the cars going 50 and 60 miles an hour. I've been to the police department several times. I've been to the highway department to put speed bumps in. They won't. We live in Country Club Parkway. They can't do it. As for stop signs, they can't do that either. Police department is doing nothing at all, actually, to stop the speeding. I would like it stopped. We have, in front of our house, we have 3 different school buses that stop to pick up kids. It's amazing, one of them hasn't been killed yet. The reckless driving on Joel and any of the main roads, but they seem to have forgotten Joel.
I'll say the great place for you to bring that statement forward is at a community council meeting.
Yeah, I figured after listening to all this, that you're right.
At those meetings, there's a sheriff representative present, and he can address that, and he can get that to the higher ups.
And
And
the other question was with the taxes. They had a half-cent sales tax, and that was passed for schools. What was our percentage of that? I know most of it probably went west for 75.
it's a countywide sales tax.
So how much did we get?
I don't know the answer to that specifically. Like I said, they're proposing 8 new schools in the next 10 years. That sales tax does sunshine in 2028, I believe, and they may be bringing that forward to renew. I haven't heard officially for that yet. They have reached out to me, and they do want to come to the community council meeting soon to make a presentation.
Does that have a lot to do with the number of members on the board? Not helping us.
We don't know that answer, that's the board's answer.
Gwen has the answer.
My other
Real quick, Ms. Wiggins has an answer to that.
There you go. I'm all for
I'm
community.
sorry, thank you. When I was on the board from 2018 to 2022, in 2019, I was told, that the house and sales tax was to build schools in the East Zone because we didn't have the money to do it. My question is always, well, why aren't they being built? Why do they still have portables? In 2019, they put, it was like 6 or 7 schools in the East Zone, on the 5-year plan. By 2020, they were on the 10-year plan. By 2021, they were off altogether. Now they have added them back on. My question to you all is to watch what's going on, because are the schools that are being built for the overcrowded, academically challenged schools that we already have, or are they being built for the growth that is coming?
Amen.
We have one question.
I'm happy to answer that.
Okay, we have a question here. Oh,
Go ahead.
Damon Sheeler, I'm I think 45, 47 year resident here. I'm one of the people that's here with less than 2,000 people. I have a question regarding your timeline as far as the incorporation. A couple of efforts and some you probably are aware of. That Caldwell brought that up in 2008, I believe. Those votes really were for a straw poll. We had to vote to say, yeah, we wanted to really look at incorporation before we could vote for incorporation. Is that still in effect? And would that affect your timeline that you showed up there on the board?
Matt, do you have an answer on the straw poll at all? I don't believe a straw poll was necessary. I think that was just kind of a preliminary step that they did.
That was before.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes back to Senator Lawson.
Yeah, that's way back. So, yeah, I think Dane's correct. The last time there was a straw poll was 08. That was 2 years before I got to the House. But that has, I think there've been 2 straw polls, as I recall, in Lehigh history. And it failed both times. And the question was taxation. Obviously, the community has changed radically since 2008. So it's a much different, both size and development picture than the one considered back then. As to what the delegation would do, I would suspect that there would be a proposal for that to be a first step before any other step taken, but it would still ultimately be up to the 8 members of your delegation to figure out what they would do one way or the other. It's not a requirement of state law to do a state law, a straw poll. Yeah, I think both times in the past, there was a sense that it didn't have the support to pass, and that was evidenced by the rejection in the straw poll. So the delegation's discernment was to not take up the effort and the time, the expense of a incorporation, a full movement like you see laid out here, if it doesn't have the support to even get past the straw poll. So that would really be the question you're going to see brought up. I would suspect that if you want to move forward with this, you would want to set some money aside to do your own private polling in the community and see if this really put before the voters what the support is. So you could take that as a piece of evidence to the legislature as they talk about it.
I'll say ultimately right now, it's the goal of the feasibility study. Because if it comes back, the feasibility study is negative and we don't have the money, then it essentially dies right there. There's no straw poll needed. So it all relies on the feasibility study.
just hold your hands up as I do question, and we're gonna run on. I have you next, we have Doug right here, and we have gentleman right here next.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Marion Staples, and I will just admit that I've been part of United Lehigh, but I had to step aside. But I believe in the vision and what's going on here. And what's bothering me more than anything, I grew up in the city of Chicago. And just like this gentleman over there, I moved because I got tired of snow and ice. They didn't have that in California, no, unless you live north. But since I moved here, I was really kind of taken aback when I saw all these people. This is not a city. And I just had one comment, then I have a question. The comment is, if we believe in Lehigh Acres, and we believe in one Lehigh Acres to move forward, and we're talking about a feasibility study of, I think, I've heard anywhere from 130 to 160,000 people. If each person here gave $1, one citizen gave $1, we need to do the feasibility study. If we are truly concerned and invested in this community, I know that I am. I have $1 I can give right now, at least one. The second question I have, Mr. Calder, if what I heard from Mr. Calder, what he was saying is that, am I can answer this, all these different properties that are being built on and things are being put here and those kind of things, we had no say so what's being built here, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, your development standards are ultimately overseen by the commission. So the zoning and the land use, is theirs to decide. Now, part of your challenge in Lehigh is 95% of the community is pre-platted by the corporation. And so they have a vested right to build a residential house on every single lot. That was all years. But all the parcels that were left, mostly like the Flint's property by Veterans Elementary, they didn't sell to the corporation. Those are the ones that have been getting zoned over the last 10 years, something else.
Okay, so all these houses that I'm seeing going up like wildfire are being built like 5 a week or a day. It seems just crappy houses too. They're going to told up by this commission, right, to build all these houses.
Well, all the individual lots have the right to have a house built on going all the way back to 1952.
Wow.
So they can't, that can't be stopped. I mean, you could, but you'd have to pay a lot of money. You'd have to pay the value of the house.
Oh, thank you. So I hope I didn't miss this information, but I have some questions about the metrics that are used in the feasibility study. What's being looked at specifically, because I think that a big issue is, does Lehigh Acres want to continue to be the second tier, right? To not have the same voice as the other municipalities to advocate for them, to seek grant funding, to be build leadership within the community through self-determination, folks participating. So, I don't know necessarily, because I haven't really seen through those metrics, if that is considered in the feasibility study, but I think that, it is important, it plays a lot of roles. For instance, Lehigh Acres is on wells. We know that these wells have PFAS in them, right? This is a big issue. There's federal money, there's monies out there to get people converted over to public supply. If that's happening, get the sewer in those services as well. So in terms of the advocacy, who's advocating for Lehigh? Who's overseeing what's going on at the incinerator? Who's monitoring what's happening at the landfill, right? So I don't know how to balance that with the feasibility study or if that's included, but I would like to know a little bit about it there.
I think I can answer that.
Go right ahead.
Well, as far as the feasibility study, it's looking at the basic metrics as far as if there's a sufficient tax base for the area to be sustainable. Once that's established, yes or no, from there, we have actual local control to actually create a board. And that's where it comes down to the 3 options as far as if Lancet is kept, if it's dissolved, or if it's incorporated into that. And then that governing body would be the one that would determine what goes on with sewers, what goes on with streets, what goes on with sidewalks, and determination of funds from there. So at this stage, the feasibility study does not go into that depth. It just looks at whether it makes sense to stop being the second tier area and actually stand up on their own sustainable area. Yes. Purely economics at this stage doesn't make sense. It's similar to the straw poll that the gentleman had looked into before, whether or not it should be had. That's essentially how it would act. You know, because for the size we are, I would expect it makes sense. And my name is Clifford Mitchell. I'm one of the directors for Unite Lehigh. Motion. I had a gentleman that was, wait,
Go ahead, sir.
This one's for you, Derek. I saw Cecil Pendergrass here, he's District 2 rep.
Yeah.
So he came on his own accord. Did you invite Mike Greenberg?
Yes, all the county commissioners were invited,
When?
as the
When did you invite them?
Same time as everyone.
The email specifically to them went out last week. I believe.
So you said you invited all of them, yet Cecil just told me, and you can call him a liar if you want, but I believe the man, because he has no reason to lie, that he just found out about it 2 days ago.
Yeah, he found out about it on Facebook. But he found out about it on Facebook, but they absolutely were invited
As a
via
commissioner,
email.
They're all meeting last week, early last week, I believe I sent that email out.
Sure.
Commissioners are elected at large for the county. They all represent all of the county. So just because he's District 2, he still represents currently at large our district.
Right. And he seems to care a little bit more about than Mike does.
No comment.
One question for Matt, did you talk about 7 steps or 5 steps for Lansing to actually be able to do this on their own?
Financial powers.
So, to give you a little more context, there are 2 things that you'll find a bipartisan consensus on in Tallahassee. One is they're very hesitant to create new cities because, as I said, we have 400 plus. While I was there, we created 2. We created Sparrow and we created Indiantown, but we would dissolve 2 or 3. So when I say there's 400 plus cities, there are a lot of cities that are 100 years old that literally only have 50 or 60 residents. They're not financially feasible. They're not stable. They basically can't stay open unless the legislature sends a grant each year. So there's a very high bar for new cities. The other question, the other thing they focus on is trying to stop doing business the way that it was done in pre-68 Constitution, which was by special district. So they're very, very hesitant. The first time I tried to do the land city bill, actually, the governor vetoed it. We had to rewrite it in order to even get what we have today and get over some additional hurdles, because the desire would be really to you either need to hit all the bullet points on a city, or they want the county to handle it, or they want you to go into the model CDD chapter. So 189 is your community development districts. That's what Gateway has, for example. Every CDD in the state has the same set of powers, has the same set of responsibilities. There's not a different charter for every single place in the state that uses CDDs. So the perspective, this brings me all the way back around, was to look at those special districts like Lansing is now that had more than just one power. A lot of special districts just have one power. Your West Coast Inland Navigation District, probably forgot that that's on your tax bill, but they're responsible for making sure that the intercoastal waterway stays free of obstructions. That's a 1 power special district that we all pay into, we and about 7 other counties in the Southwest Florida. But the ones that are like Lansing, once you have 6 powers, 6 distinct powers, you have the option in the statutes, if you get enough signatures, but by petition, to immediately go to a referendum to convert it into a city. So you don't have to do the feasibility study. You don't have to deal with any of the other issues. You simply have to get the threshold. Now, again, that's no small task in a city now with probably around 80,000 registered voters. I forget the exact percentage, but we're talking about 20,000 petitions at least. Not impossible, but it would definitely be a task. And you could only do that once the county commission agrees to let Lansing exercise the 6th power. And keep in mind that that statute could change at any time. It's not part of the Constitution. That statute could be changed in the next session. So that could change with the perspective of the legislature, whether or not to leave that avenue open. from corporations or special
That's a state
state sector.
budgets. I'm trying to think of- Here's our reps. Kennedy.
That's in you,
You got Izzy.
they just have bridges.
Hello, I'm Attorney Fowler,
Izzy.
and my question is, out of the 7,900 plus housing units that are going up, do we have a number or a percentage of those houses that will be being affordable?
Going to field that?
Yeah, I missed the very beginning of the question.
He said based off of the 7,900 developments that are in Lehigh, are any of those designated affordable?
I don't know the exact answer to that. I'm gonna go, no.
That's outside of the purview of what we're looking at as far as incorporation. What the development and everything is done by the city council or the city commissioners.
Right, but if this takes off and actually something, will the new system have more say of what is affordable?
At this stage, it would not be something that we could say. That's something that would be designated under that board, whichever way it's developed, under those three options that Derek had mentioned earlier.
As a city, we would have more say in that as opposed to currently, it's all governed by the county and whatever they want to. But affordable housing is really brought forward by developers.
Yeah, so
The county can incentivize it.
it will be the same thing for the industrial square footage that's coming up as well as how many jobs will be coming with those industrial hey,
As a city, we could incentivize and push for economic growth within the Lehigh Acres. Bring jobs and commercial businesses to Lehigh Acres more. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, obviously demographics and things like that have a lot to do with whether you're gonna get a Texas Roadhouse, that is not something necessarily that a city has control over.
Yeah, you brought up a slide that said we have $1.8 million of commercial businesses projected to come to Lehigh. Where did you draw that data from? Because we only have 3% of our land that is zoned commercial, and I find that very hard to put 1.8 million on the 3%. And I run a business here, and I've been in the same location for 13 years, and I can't find another location if I had to.
Amen.
I don't disagree with you. Right now, on this map, there is 1.8 million square feet in development. Not built yet, it's coming. The Black's Mountain is 500 square feet alone, I think, of commercial, plus industrial down there. Savannah Lakes is 100,000 square feet of potential commercial. The Red Timber Lake has, I think, 100,000 square feet plus hotel coming there. The Blue Daniel South development has a very large portion of commercial development coming. Some right in the middle by some in the Lehigh, right in the middle, they have another 300,000 square feet of commercial plus 100,000 square feet of storage coming. It's in there.
It's proposed, it's not being built.
Can I say?
The issue with development is with the county currently, from what I can tell from being here, is to build something, if you have to rezone something, it can take upwards of 3 years to actually get it built.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea, in order to put a two-person financial planning office, it took me 9 months to get a permit. If I wanted to put the same in either Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Sanibel, anywhere else, it would have taken 3 weeks. And that's because the county, and Frank Mann actually called one of the zoning people for me, because he was really pushing for me. And they called me and said, if you have your boy Frank Mann call me again, you'll never get it. So that's just what happens, and that's what happens because we don't have representation.
Tiffany Esposito recently had a bill for the permitting process. I believe it got shot down with the state legislature.
Yeah, it took, 6 years for a Waffle House to be built? Because the county kept holding it up. let me just say one last thing on single member district. The last two elections that Frank Mann ran, he lost 79% for Matt Miller, 21% for him, both elections, and he still was elected because he kowtowed to Cape Coral and San Antonio. And so single member district is the most important thing, more than incorporation. I believe in incorporation, because those have to, we have to do a single member district for a meeting, be members. Thanks.
I don't think that's how. Right. So, what time is that?
The question was answered earlier, but any seat at any of the table within the company, under owning ourselves, not only empowers us, it gives us a say as to what we do, how we do it, when we do it.
Yeah, low battery note.
If we don't take that chance that we have right now, in getting the feasibility study accomplished, if they move forward or not, we will be sitting here 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And Matt alluded to this when we had the straw poll. I was there. It only went to the commissioners. It didn't go farther than there. The people in Lehigh was not really involved. I am attesting to it. So you have a say in not your future, but your children's future, your neighbor's future, the person behind your future, the person in front of you. You have a say. Don't let it go by, because myself and you, we might go by too, without resolution as to what we have done for those people in front, in the back, on the side.
Yeah. I'd just like to know, how much money do we have towards a feasibility study right now? And what are the plans to say, to, accumulate money for this feasibility study or raise money? And my next question is there a potential for this feasibility study to be blocked due to political reasons?
To answer the first question, currently there is, I'm not sure the exact number, it's less than $1,000 in our bank accounts. We are just at the beginning stages of our business outreach sponsorship program. So we need to start, I've been preparing for this meeting the past few weeks. And now we can move forward and start really pushing that outreach program. So hopefully we can begin getting businesses and things like that to put forth some more substantial money. I know Mr. Berry spoke about the $1 per hour resident, which is a great way to look at it. Also, I'd love to see, 50 businesses donate $1,000, wouldn't that be nice? So that's our next step, is the business outreach program.
So for those that do have donations, we are right now, you can have that right there.
1 second.
There you go. And we do have our volunteer back at Fix Like Those Funds. Thank you, Laura.
The second question regarding can the feasibility study be blocked? I guess the only way to really be blocked is we need some amount of coordination with the county and things like that. When we're doing the feasibility study, we're going to hire a company, and they're going to try to gather these numbers and put together a economic review of if it's possible. They will need to work with the sheriff's department and the county and things like that in order to create that document. So, I mean, could we be stonewalled by the county to get those numbers? Sure, it's possible. But I think, I don't think they would do that. I think they want to get the feasibility study done just as much as we do to see what the actual numbers are, if it's possible or not.
The data itself of the feasibility study would be usable by them, because this would be essentially public information that we put out. So it's something that behooves them to know for sure what they would, what the possibilities are. So the likelihood of that is low, relatively speaking. However, as Mr. Caldwell pointed out, it could be bypassed if they change particular thresholds for petitions, or if they change particular rules or requirements in the incorporation. if the feasibility study says that it doesn't make sense to incorporate.
I will say, just today, actually, I received an email from Mr. Pendergrass regarding our supposed budget for Lehigh. So he has the overall budget for unincorporated Lee County. And their means of saying how much they are giving to Lehigh is to take the percentage of population for Lehigh from the overall population of unincorporated Lee County and take that number from the budget for unincorporated Lee County. That's how they're saying that they're putting forth $33 million into Lehigh. I kind of disagree with that method because just because you are allocating that number for the population doesn't mean that it's actually getting spent here.
I am really for the feasibility money to be collected. And we have to have a way of doing it. This pastor here had suggested something about $1 per month, which is something that everybody can afford. We keep talking about this, talking about it. We have to have a system and a way of collecting the money, because I'm sure most of the people who are here today leaving, not thinking about the donation.
So
How are we going?
I have that answer for you. So I just joined Derek and the others in their effort, and we're marketing and advertising. So what we'll do is take the suggestion that has been brought forward today and reach out to the citizens of Lehigh and ask them to do that minor donation as we already have. Venmo, PayPal, it's on the website, already donate today. But it will probably require people like you who've been here. So if you look around the room, there's, or how many people are here today?
74 people.
74 people. If each one of you committed to share the message of what you heard here today, and then pushed it to your neighbors and friends electronically, and then asked them to donate, then yes, it would go much faster. Absolutely. But that would be the idea, is to get it going, to sell to businesses and to sell to individuals to get the money.
I know that a lot of people use the internet to collect money for different reasons, whether health or whatever. I think this is something we could have a site where people could just go in on it and do.
When was the question?
How do we get to the website? For the ones who are not web or computer savvy, it's going to be hard.
Let me say this quickly. This young lady that you see on this end, and she told me she's only 18. They have a paper out right now, the road. We're gonna ask, and I think she has put it out there already. They have a newspaper. We used to have the citizens paper, but it used to go to everybody, but people abused it. They have a newspaper called Roar. If you'd like to have that paper, that newspaper, she would be willing to tell you how to ask for it.
Okay. Yes, and you can pick one up at many boxes. There's many pickup boxes all down Joel. You see them, it's the orange boxes all up and down Joel. If you want to pick one up there, in the back of the paper on the bottom left, it tells you the locations. You can grab it at the businesses, but it's also direct mail. And one of our efforts might be to raise money to go ahead and direct mail people a postcard. But again, you know, if you get a postcard in the mail, do you read it? You know, do you chuck it in the garbage? So it really is going to be about going neighbor to neighbor, person to person. Maybe we could have these resources available to you for you who want to advocate. You could take it physically and say, here, donate.
I have a question here. Who talked about District 77 Tiffany Esposito, who promised legislature paying for feasibility study? I had a meeting with her a few months back. I don't recall her saying anything about paying for a feasibility study. She has said she's not currently in favor of incorporation for Lehigh due to the fact that she does not believe that it's feasible. My response was, show me the proof that it's not feasible. That's why we need a feasibility study.
That if our legislators are not willing to at least do the study and see where we're at with it.
If they're not willing to do a feasibility study, you know, what are they afraid of? And when marketing this to people, it's kind of like saying to folks, being a part of this feasibility study is not saying that this is going to happen. This is information we need to know if we are and can. And that has to be really stated.
Thank you, Gwen. Yes, we have that stated, and that is always first and foremost. But, you know, here's the answer to the legislative, folks, whether they're county or state. If they're not for assisting us in this, then you need new ones. So if you're running for an office, this session, I want you to stand up and be recognized right now. If you are running for an office this session, you people recognize these people who are willing to put themselves out to go ahead and try to better us. And we have Matt here too. I want him to stand up one more time and be recognized for his free time. He's here given to us because he cares. That's why he's here, because he's not running for anything either. Well, actually, in general. At the moment. Running on opposed, what is your story?
I have a lady back here.
Reminder Wednesday. Reminder for Wednesday. Plug Wednesday.
Want me to plug Wednesday?
Meeting.
Meeting, which is the.
Okay, I have a question. I'm not too advised on this, but, if Lehigh becomes incorporated, and we don't have enough taxes coming in, who will be paying when the assessment time comes around? What I want to know, would that be added to our taxes, then our roads and sewer, and all the other things that need to be done? This happened in Pierre Carroll, and that's why a lot of people move from Pierre Carroll to Lehigh, because the amount of fees that went on to our taxes was all $50,000-$60,000. Let us know if we can be burdened with all these fees when enough taxes are coming in, if Lehigh become incorporated. And then if we can pay all this money then what are we going to do? Lose our homes? What are we going to do?
Go back to the.
On the topic of sewer and water expansion, I don't foresee us being like Cape Coral where it would be water and sewer expansion happening everywhere anytime soon. Sewer and water will be expanded in areas where it makes sense. Mainly your commercial corridors, area 2, gunnery, things of that nature. For us to have sewer and water everywhere, maybe someday, 50 years from now. There's no stopping that probably eventually. Eventually, we're going to be 400,000 people. But we're talking 50, 60, 70 years from now.
Derek, I just want to remind you, and so that you know, Cape Coral did not become a city overnight. Cape Coral did not impose these type of things overnight. They were a city for quite some time. So we're not saying that that might not happen in our lifetime, but I have a strong feeling it's not going to happen in some of our lifetime.
And also, the state right now is pushing sewer expansion. Right now, they don't want to see more septic tanks. So they are pushing for sewer expansion. So there are areas in Lehigh where they are talking about right now, currently, under the current administration, having nothing to do with incorporation, that sewer is being expanded.
And with regards to that, many of the areas that you see that are developing, those are the areas that would largely get impacted as far as the sewer coming in. Older areas are more expensive, and they're generally the last ones to actually get a special assessment for sewers like that. As I noted with the smaller area on the side you have that would have a lower tax base, because that is the older area. Again, that's not something that would happen on day 2 or anything like that. Just something to keep in mind for it. But upgraded sewer systems, upgraded water municipalities would be something that would be beneficial to everyone in the area. But it's not anything that's gonna happen immediately. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I just wanted to ask a question about some of the rural areas like Buckingham, where people move there because they need land or want to expand, have animals, etc. What is going to happen to these areas? Are the developers going to insist that these areas become developed? Or are they allowed to have it if they want to?
Derek, you want to?
Oh, sorry.
You can answer.
Currently, under the county administration, if you own property, you have the right to develop that property. So if you have a 20-acre parcel and you want to rezone it to be 50 homes built on it, you have that right to put forth an application, and if you meet all the requirements with the county, they'll rubber stamp that development.
So the comment is, what could the city do to stop sort of development like that's already in? That's largely going to be determined after the city is incorporated. If there was any zoning changes, that would be after the fact. As of right now, everything would stand as is. If it's something you'd want to stop, be friends with that homeowner and ask them not to let it get developed that way, or buy the property yourself, and that way you can stop. But this is America, and people have freedom to do what they like. From a city council perspective, we have to be a city to incorporate before we can make a decision as far as what could or couldn't be allowed.
Yeah, if you don't want to develop your own property, if you own a property, you don't have to develop that property.
Eminent domain, they could not go ahead and rezone.
That's a whole other conversation I have.
So I do want to make an announcement. We do have a town hall discussion coming up Wednesday, May 1st at 5:30. And this is going to be for the Lehigh Acres Municipal Special Improvement District at 601 East County Lane in Lehigh Acres. So many of your comments, many of your concerns, that's the place to really go and talk to the people that actually make changes and have input on that. This particular organization is established to, first off, get a feasibility study to see if it makes sense to become a city. And then if that study comes back that it does make sense, then getting those powers into the area as a city, and then it'll be a matter of doing particular zoning or special requirements for that. And it is 601 East County Lane in Lehigh Acres. That is May 1st, that is this Wednesday, so 2 days from now. 6:30, excuse me, 5:30. 601 East County Lane, Lehigh Acres, Florida. At 5:30, May 1st, Wednesday. So now, one of the key ways that people can get updated on information like this is making sure that we do have your email address, that we can go ahead and get you onto our mail list, and we can give you updates on that. We're also in the works of improving our communication with our lovely marketing director. That's going to be having an open channel for your input and for growth as far as development from that.
Your 4 state legislature representatives will be there. Even if you don't have comments regarding single member districts, come and talk about the other issues that may plague in Lehigh. Is this maybe an opportunity to bring something forward? You're going to be able to speak hopefully and have public comment at that meeting. You can say whatever you want. You don't have to speak only on the single member district topic if you don't want to.
All right.
Any additional comments or questions?
I'm wondering, what's that?
Hi, I may have or not have the proper information. I one time worked with the previous efforts to incorporate. and, in one capacity or another. And I want to know, I believe there was a feasibility study done. I may be wrong. If there was one done back then, where is it? If it does exist? Because there was a lot of money spent and collected for that. I also want to make a couple of comments. Question regarding taxes. We just had a tax increase this year for this entire, county, I guess the whole state, whatever. We just had a tax increase. We weren't incorporated. We didn't get any water. We didn't get any sewer. We didn't have anything like that taking place, but we did get tax increases. And we're not benefiting much from any of the houses that are going up. Maybe they need to have the developers put up front for feasibility studies as these houses go up. This is increasing the revenue, because they're getting paid a lot of money for these houses that a lot of people can't even afford right now in Lehigh. They can't get a mortgage for it. Secondly, I remember back in 08 and 09, when we had the last recession, they took away the police department, or they closed it part day. I guess it's 5 o'clock down on Homestead Road, and that has not been opened yet. Yet it's still, I mean, complaining about gas prices. Gas prices went up to maybe $5, and went back down to $2, and we still don't have the police department open. There's no presence there. You have to wait for police to come from Fort Myers in order to get some assistance. The last thing I'd like to say is we have to use our common sense to come to some decisions about what we do, because it's our future. I remember maybe 15 years ago, they said it would be 20 years before we get lighting and sidewalks. And I just heard we have to wait another 20 years to get something done. So I probably will not be around then, but hopefully we'll get some of that stuff done maybe for our descendants.
We gotta get on it.
I just wanted to say we have to use our common sense and get off of our devices to have someone tell us what to think. We cannot listen to people tell us what to think. We must use our own common sense and facts. Do not listen to these sites that incite things for other people's interests. We have to take care of our own interests and stay off of these devices.
Okay, so I'll start with it. I'll say the sidewalks, there's a 4 different zones that look at. Each year, my understanding is that they take one project from the top of each of the zones. So there's 140-some projects on this list currently. In our central zone, there's 98. Each year, they take the top thing. So, I mean, there may be a sidewalk coming to Leonard Boulevard soon. I believe currently the one along Bell Boulevard is currently being designed. So they're happening, but it just depends on where you're ranked in this list. If there's a project that, I could present a project tomorrow to the committee, and if it meets the criteria and has the correct point value, it could go to the top of the list. It could be done back here. But most likely, the projects that are going to jump to the top of the list have already been done. To the tax question, I don't believe taxes went up this year. What did go up is your property values. Mr. Caldwell could tend to speak to that. But I want to ask him to. But I don't believe that the actual millage rate was raised this year. And your first question, the previous feasibility studies. So on our website, all the previous documents that I have been able to find are on our website, unitlehigh.com. The most recent feasibility study that I can find is from 2007. There's another one, I believe, from 1999. People have said there's one in 2012, but can't find any documentation of that. And I think from what I have heard, the only thing that actually wasn't a feasibility study. It was the same thing that the county's presenting to me now, where they're taking a proportion of the unincorporated county budget and proportioning it out with our population, which to me is not a feasibility study.
All right, and then I would like to add one comment to that. All the previous feasibility studies did not incorporate the one thing that happened between now and then, which was COVID. When COVID happened and the whole world was going crazy, everybody was moving into Lehigh and Cape Coral. we as a area are 10 to 15 years ahead of any projections. All right, because they, even on the map there, they said we should be at 100,000 people, I believe, by 2025, 2030, 150,000. It's 2024, and from what I can gather, we're at 160. That data is dated, that's old. Any previous feasibility study, it's really irrelevant. Okay, and then many of the concerns you are have as far as the taxing and everything, we can't change that because they just take all the money from Lehigh. They have no incentive to do a feasibility study because that would take from their coffers and all the other areas they want to designate those funds to. So even as we sit here, they raise the tax rate, they get more money, and Lehigh continues to be ignored. So we need a feasibility study to say, hey, look, we're big enough. We need to be our own area. We need local control. And that way we can take responsibility and we can go ahead and designate those fund allocations. But that comes down to being involved in organizations like this that are going parallel to what the administration here locally is doing. And it needs all of you involved in what's going on with the Ramsey boards, the city councils, the school boards, and everything to truly have the impacts that many of us want to see. QR? The QR code? So if you use your phone, take the camera out and point it towards that, it should have a website that pops up. That you can get updated on the events and different things we have going on in the area that we're able to announce.
So the next main meeting is tomorrow, which could bring us into our next public speakers that may want to comment. Tomorrow in Estero, there's the District 5 candidate forum where our 3 candidates for District 5 will be two confirmed. 3 candidates will have the opportunity to be present and have the opportunity to state their cases for Lehigh. And if anyone wants to say anything now, they can feel free.
I'd like to introduce Amanda Cochran, who I had an opportunity to talk with as far as the Lehigh Business Expo last Thursday.
Yes, sir. I am Amanda Cochran, running for District 5 Lee County Commission. I live in Alva. And I just want to first say, before I say anything about that campaign, if the people standing in the room are volunteers who I personally can tell you, because I've been involved with them, have worked very, very, very hard to bring this information. And I'm personally proud to be involved in the conversation because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hours. And they're doing it, not for themselves, because they're in this community, but they're doing it for the community. And it's on their own time. So I just want to recognize that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I know that. Okay, my name is Amanda Cochran. I've been a business owner in Lee County for 25 years, a mother. I've been involved in the nonprofit sector. What I was not involved in was politics, and I never saw it on my horizon, I can promise you that. A few years ago, some things were happening in our community, talking about all this unmitigated growth, and I thought, my mom taught me, if you don't complain if you're not willing to be a part of the solution. So I went down to those Board of County Commission meetings and started to listen. And what I recognized was that there was lots of the community coming forward from all over Lee County, talking to those commissioners. And I thought when I went home to my husband and said, I want to help be a voice and connect what seemed like a disconnect. Lehigh has my heart. I'm 6 generations from this area, and a lot of them grew up in Lehigh. I grew up on the east side of town, not necessarily Alva, but in East Fort Myers and in Fort Myers. And I know you all deserve them. I believe that with all my heart. And I am hoping to be the kind of representation and a kind of voice. And if a feasibility study says that you should incorporate it and have your own voice, I stand behind that 100%. I do. You should have your own voice. Thank you.
I wanted to take a quick question. Is there a way, Derek, you can get up that map with the commercial and the industrial? Oh, yeah, okay. Just take over for a moment. Well, I just wanted to point out here, when we take a look at the Daniel South, which is that blue triangle, when we talk about the post Kingston development, when we talk about Timberwalk, all of those developments had commercial, with them that has been severed off. And we know that commercial never materialized with Timberwalk. Whenever these are allowed to be separated and these mixed use developments add more and more residential without employment, then it just makes the traffic that much worse. If you guys have control, then you can condition these developments so that the commercial has to go in first, or it can be severed. I just wanted to point that out because I think it's super important.
Hello, I am Phineas Fowler, and I'm running for Florida House District 77. I'm running for the people, the working class, the people that carry this nation on their backs. I believe that there should be balance between the working class people in cooperation. But I also believe that the janitor deserves the same respect as the CEO. I know that our county, our state, our nation is growing, but we have to grow together. We have to do this together. We have to do this in a smart way that benefits all. It seems more and more every day that we're getting priced out of our communities. There's not enough affordable housing. The jobs are not paying enough. We have to support our local businesses in order for them to be able to help pay more. So that's what I'm running for. I'm running for the people. I'm a union guy. I've worked in rural communities all my life, and I look forward to taking this fight to Tallahassee on the behalf of the working class people. I always say, if you're not at the table, then you are on the menu. And Lehigh have been on the menu for too long, and we're going to change that together. Thank you.
Any other thoughts?
Let me make a quick comment here.
Let her go.
Oh,
Hello, everyone. My name is Keith Fowler. I'm running for the County Commissioner, District 5 also. I want to let you know that myself, I am a social worker. We're in the public service sector for over 20 years. So I coming here 5 years ago, Fort Myers, when me and my family moved here. Working as a social worker, I did hear the voices, and as you get on the voices that of issues and concerns that was not being met. So for me, I was on the other end of that phone, hearing the single family, being evicted and things like that. And I have learned that in order for, there's no representation at all inside the commission for the ones that are in need of help. And here in Lee County was the one where I got the most calls from. So it is true that there's no resource. There's the resources that they're doing outside of Fort Myers. The taxpayers are doing the same thing they're doing, but it's not coming back here. So I do support the senior district. I support everything that was the presentation tonight. I really do, because there's no representation. In order for you to see the representation, you have to have a single district, so you would know who is standing for you. My name is Keith Fowler. I'm running for this Lee County District 5. Thank you.
I have a quick comment and some of us may, and some of us may not know. If we let things happen and keep happening, what happened by Publix and 82, the crossroad area, Fort Myers annexed that area. Did you guys know that? That was part of Lehigh. That's not the only area, and that was a large commercial space. If you want more of that, let us all sit back and let it happen. If you want your funds to go into a general fund at the county level, sit back and let it keep going. I can tell you this. I didn't only retire from the Army with 4 years of service. I also taught in the high schools here and have been involved in Lehigh here as a community person continuously. I know Lehigh, I know also the county. I know where our funds are going, I also know who represents us. You got it. 0. A seat at any table for us is much, much, much deserved. You deserve it more than me. I can sit at home, but I choose not to. I don't have anybody who depends on me, except the people in the community. And I'm running for nothing. I'm just letting you all know, this is our business. We need a seat at every table to represent ourselves.
So now there's also a petition to incorporate Lehigh, at the table in the back. So if those of you that come by that are interested and that you want to make a difference, you want to have changes in here where we actually have that local control, please grab one of those, fill it out, and leave it with Laura at the back table. It's greatly appreciated. We appreciate everybody that's been here in attendance and appreciate all of you coming out.
So if anyone has their comment cards, and fill them out, please email the back with Laura, grab a flyer, grab a stack of flyers, send it to your neighbors. This meeting will be on YouTube, it'll be on our Facebook page, advertise it, continue getting the word out. All your neighbors. Thank you for coming.